Heartwarming Discovery. Millionaire reveals incredible life-changing surprise to girl crying in the street. Emily sat on the curb, fingers trembling on the cold metal of her car door. The once reliable vehicle sputtered to a stop, the engine breathing its last breath as the diner's neon lights flickered above her. Tears streamed down her cheeks, mixing with the light drizzle that had begun to fall. She felt the weight of the world on her shoulders: 2 jobs, student loans, her father's recent layoff from the factory, and her younger siblings waiting for her at home. She had promised herself a better life, a brighter future, but every day felt like a struggle to keep that dream alive. As she wiped the tears away, a figure emerged from the shadows. Mr. Thompson, the town's wealthy philanthropist, approached, his face kind yet curious. "Are you all right?" he asked gently, noting the distress etched across Emily's features. She nodded but couldn't mask the sorrow that lay within her. "What's wrong?" he pressed, his voice softening as he saw the desperation in her eyes. With a deep breath, Emily opened up about her family's struggles, how hard she fought to keep them afloat, while secretly dreaming of college and a life beyond the diner's walls. Mr. Thompson listened intently, his heart aching for the young woman before him. Before they could delve deeper, a group of onlookers began to murmur, casting judgmental glances at Emily. "Look at her, begging for handouts," one whispered. "Shouldn't she be working harder for her own?" Another scoffed, shrugging off the weight of Emily's burdens. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Emily felt a surge of energy rise within her. With a shaky yet determined voice, she turned towards the gathering crowd. "You think accepting help is a weakness?" she challenged, her words cutting through the wind like a sharp blade. "Have you ever felt hopeless, watching your family struggle while you juggle work and school? It's not a shame to ask for help when you're drowning. It's about surviving." The crowd shifted, some faces reflecting shock, others flickering with doubt. Emily stood tall, embodying the very resilience they claimed to admire. "I understand hard work. I understand sacrifice. We all need a little compassion sometimes. Why judge those who are trying their best?" Her fervent speech ignited something. She could see the flickers of realization on a few faces. Yet before anything could resolve, an unexpected twist of fate loomed ahead. A letter in her bag slipped out and landed at her feet, revealing the stark reality of overdue rent and the threat of eviction. Her heart sank as she realized that the moment she hoped would liberate her might also deepen the chasm of despair she faced. What would happen next? Would the community rally behind her newfound voice? Or would the shadows of doubt pull her back? The street. But Mr. Thompson stepped forward, his presence commanding. "Enough," he called out, cutting through the whispers like a knife. As the crowd turned towards him, Emily's heart raced. Would he defend her or scold her for making such a scene? "I've lived in this town long enough to see struggles like Emily's," he continued, his voice steady, yet filled with earnest passion. "It's easy to judge when you're not in someone's shoes. We need to come together, not tear each other down." There was power in his words, and the murmurs quieted, replaced by a palpable tension in the air. Emily glanced at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. His support felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. She was too caught up in the moment to see the change in those around her, but she could sense it. The crowd was shifting not just in size, but in heart. "Look around you." Mr. Thompson gestured broadly, addressing not just Emily but the entire gathering. "There are people here, your neighbors, your friends, who know what it means to struggle. Let us help each other instead of pointing fingers." A heavy silence followed, mingling with the distant sound of raindrops dancing on pavement. Slowly, one man stepped forward. "My wife and I run a small bakery. We'll help with groceries for your family." "Emily," he said, his voice soft yet firm, A few others chimed in, offering jobs, food, even a few dollars. The weight of judgment began to lift, as if a collective realization echoed within the crowd. Emily's damp cheeks were now stained not just with tears of despair, but also with streaks of hope. She turned back to Mr. Thompson, who met her eyes. "You did that," he smiled gently. "You found the strength to speak up. Remember, change begins with one voice." Just then, as Emily began to feel a flicker of warmth amidst the coldness, another figure appeared. It was her younger brother, Jacob, his small frame silhouetted against the diner's lights. He had run from home, panic etched on his face. "Emily!" he shouted, rushing to her side. "I was so worried. I thought something happened to you." Her heart clenched. She knelt and embraced him tightly, tears flowing again not just from sorrow but relief. "I'm okay, buddy," she whispered, trying to soothe him. The crowd, witnessing this emotional reunion, felt the tension shift into something almost tangible: compassion, community, and the raw essence of humanity. Mr. Thompson glanced at the boy, a glimmer of understanding passing between them. Just then, a woman from the crowd stepped forward with a clipboard. "Actually, I run a local charity. We could set up some monthly support for your family. Emily, it's the least we can do after your display of courage," she said, her tone decisive. Emily was taken aback. Was this really happening? But she stammered, "I don't want to be a burden." "But you're not," Mr. Thompson interjected, stepping a bit closer. "You're part of this community, and we're here to lift you up." And in that moment, something changed in Emily. She took a deep breath, feeling a wave of courage wash over her, mingled with the kind of hope she had thought lost. Yet as reassurance enveloped her spirit, a pink slip of paper, crumpled and stained with uncertainty, awaited her in her bag, delivering a stark reminder of her looming evictions. How could she balance this hope against the harsh reality? Now more than ever, she realized that the fight was far from over. Would she have the support she so desperately needed when the time came to face her landlord? Her mind raced ahead, contemplating the possible consequences of hope meeting reality. She inhaled deeply, holding on to the warmth of community, but her heart remained heavy. How resilient could one person really be when faced with crushing doubt again? As new voices rose to drown out her fears, she couldn't shake the feeling that the true test was still ahead. That night, with the rain picking up and hearts beginning to mend, Emily pondered her next step. How could she balance this newfound support with the reality knocking at her door? And what sacrifices would she have to make? But just as the questions weighed heavy in her mind, a flicker of light caught her attention, a warm glow from Mr. Thompson's phone as he received a message. His expression changed, eyebrows knitting together in concern as he read it quickly, then looked up at Emily with a mix of urgency and surprise. "What is it?" she asked, her heart pounding. What news could be so important? "Emily, you need to hear this," he replied, his words hanging in the air like a cliffhanger, leaving everything unsaid. Emily's heart raced as Mr. Thompson's face shifted from concern to determination. She felt the weight of the crowd's gaze upon her, the atmosphere thickening with anticipation. "What do I need to hear?" she pressed, her voice barely above a whisper. The crowd, once intimidating, had transformed into a gathered group of allies, their collective hopes now resting on Mr. Thompson. "It's about the funding for the community initiative," he started, glancing down at the phone in his hand again. "The message is from the head of the town council. They've just secured a significant donation enough to support vital programs in our community, including housing support." A ripple of whispers flowed through the crowd, curiosity and excitement mingling. Emily's breath hitched in her throat. New programs? Housing support? Felt surreal. "What does this mean for us?" she asked, eyes wide, searching Mr. Thompson's face for clarity. "It means," he said, his voice filling with hope, "that your situation could change. They're looking to help families who are on the brink of eviction. But they'll need to hear your story, Emily. They want someone to stand up, someone brave just like you did tonight." The gravity of his words sank in, and a swell of emotions coursed through her. Rage, fear, and hope fought for dominance in her chest. Suddenly, It wasn't just about her struggle anymore. It was about an entire community coming together to uplift one another. No longer was she just a girl facing eviction, but a voice for others who shared her plight. Jacob, still holding on to her side, looked up at her, confusion and hope flickering in his young eyes. "Will we be okay?" he asked softly, his innocence piercing through her heart. She knelt once again, brushing a hand through his hair, trying to reflect the strength she now felt surging within. "Yes, we will, Jacob. We will fight for this," she declared, a newfound determination shining through her fear. She glanced at Mr. Thompson, who nodded in affirmation, the corners of his mouth lifting with pride. The crowd erupted in soft encouragement, voices rising in a chorus of agreement. They recognized the need for representation, for someone to lead the charge, and somehow, Emily felt ready to be that person. "I'll do it," she said, her voice stronger than before. "I'll share my story." Mr. Thompson beamed, his eyes glistening with admiration. "You're about to do something incredible, Emily. This could inspire people to step up and help." As she stood fully, the applause erupted, surging through her as a comforting wave. The crowd before her wasn't just a collection of onlookers anymore, they were a unit, ready to rise up. But just as hope began to take root, Emily felt the cold edge of reality gnawing at her. What if the support didn't come in time? What if she failed to tell her story the right way? With thoughts spiraling, she clutched the slip of paper in her bag tighter, its presence a heavy reminder of her impending eviction. "Emily?" Mr. Thompson's voice broke her concentration. "There's one more thing you should know." The anticipation hung heavy, and she braced herself for another surprise. "What is it?" she murmured, feeling her heart race anew. He glanced around, then lowered his voice. "The donors are influential, but they may also have questions. You'll need to prepare yourself. There's a meeting next week. It might change everything." As anxiety washed over her, she locked eyes with Jacob, his faith in her unwavering. She had never felt more scared or more empowered. Would she be able to harness this fleeting moment of courage and transform it into change? The room fell silent again, with a spark of uncertainty binding everyone's attention on her. All the fears came rushing back, blending with the hope, swirling into an overwhelming mix. "Okay, I'll be ready," Emily said, clenching her fists in determination. But in the back of her mind, shadows flickered. What if she didn't know how to navigate this world of millionaires and meetings? Was she really prepared to share her story and face the judgment of those more fortunate than her? A tremor shook her resolve as she clung to Jacob's hand tightly, reminded of what was truly at stake. As the crowd began to disperse, leaving her with a mix of excitement and dread about the upcoming meeting, she could feel the echoes of encouragement ringing in her ears. What awaited her was a daunting challenge, but at this moment, her heart raced for a chance to reclaim not just her home, but her future. But as the questions danced in her mind, one lingered more than the others. Would she be able to make her voice heard among the giants of the town, or would she falter and let the fear consume her? Emily walked home under a canopy of stars, the night air buzzing with possibilities. Each step felt heavier than the last, her thoughts a whirlwind of excitement and dread. The cheers of the crowd lingered in her ears, yet the slip of paper in her bag weighed her down like a stone. It was a reminder of the harsh reality she faced. Eviction loomed closer every day. Jacob walked alongside her, his small hand in hers, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside her. She sighed, ruffling his hair as they turned onto their street. The familiar sights of their neighborhood should have brought comfort, but tonight, everything felt different. Each window illuminated from within seemed to cast shadows of doubt over her heart. Is this what it feels like to be a hero? She thought, her mind racing with the idea of being that beacon of hope. But with that thought came an avalanche of fears. What if she wasn't enough? What if they were looking for a polished voice, one that she didn't possess? "Mom will be home late again," Jacob said, breaking Emily's reverie. "I wish she didn't have to work so much." Those words pierced her heart. The struggle to make ends meet played out in her mind, reminding her of how often Jacob had to face the dark side of adulthood. "We're in this together," she whispered to him, although she was not entirely sure what together truly meant in the storm they were weathering. When they reached their front door, she paused for a moment to gather her thoughts. The worn doormat welcomed them home, but her heart raced with the uncertainty of what awaited inside. Would they have their usual dinner of pasta? The same questions? The honest worry bubbling beneath the surface? Or would it be different, a night of planning, preparation, and perhaps a touch of magic? Once inside, she felt the warmth of their small, cluttered home engulf her. It was a comforting chaos, the remnants of Jacob's toys strewn about, remnants of her hasty dinners, and the loving chaos that filled the air. She knelt beside Jacob, pulling out his favorite books. They flipped through pages together, reading about adventures and heroes and escape from reality all around them. Emily? Jacob's soft voice broke through the comforting bubble of live-action adventure. Are we really going to be okay? Her heart swelled at the faith this little boy had in her, but she felt the weight of his dependency resting on her shoulders. Yeah, buddy, I promise we'll be okay, she said, even as doubt lingered. She had to project strength not only for Jacob but also for herself. This was about more than one battle. It was the fight for a future. As they settled onto the couch, ready to read and forget the world for a few moments, she pulled out her phone to check for any updates. There was nothing from Mr. Thompson. Anxiety gripped her again. What if she wasn't considered important enough for the donors? What if they had second thoughts? Suddenly, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Mr. Thompson. She hesitated, her thumb hovering over the screen. What if it contained bad news? She breathed deeply, pushing through her panic. Lastly, she opened the message. Emily, I just spoke with one of the donors. He is intrigued by your story and wants to meet before the meeting. This could be a pivotal moment for you. A spark ignited in her. Moments of clashing hope and anxiety merged. Was this the opportunity she had been waiting for? She felt the air leave her lungs as nerves danced at the edges of her mind. Just breathe, she whispered to herself. Who's that from? Jacob asked, peeking at her phone. Just Mr. Thompson. He says I might get a chance to tell my story before the big meeting. Jacob's eyes lit up. That's awesome. You're gonna show them how strong you are. Like in our stories. Emily smiled, some of her fear easing. Yes, Emily, you are strong, she thought. She nodded, trying to embody the confidence Jacob saw in her, even as a voice inside remained uncertain. How about we plan what you'll say? Jacob suggested, his excitement infectious. Emily smiled wider. That sounds perfect, she replied, already plotting her words as they discussed her story. Her heart raced with newfound purpose. But just as she felt the ground beneath her return with strength, a terrifying question struck her. Would she be able to impress the very people who could change everything, or would she let her nerves steal that moment from her? The room felt alive with possibilities as Emily started to voice her thoughts. Jacob listened intently, his bright eyes making her feel like the strongest person in the world, even when her heart trembled with doubt. What if I tell them about how we got here? How we've always fought for each other? She mused, excitement bubbling in her voice. I could talk about how hard you work at school, how you always help me around the house. They need to know we're more than just, well, us. Jacob bounced on the couch, his enthusiasm contagious. Yeah. And how we saved that cat from the storm last month. It was super scary, but we did it together. That's a great story, buddy. It shows we don't give up, no matter how hard things get. Emily said, her confidence building. She could see it now, the potential of their struggle, woven into a narrative that could tug at heartstrings. As the night faded into the wee hours, they crafted word after word, building a bridge of hope. Yet, for each uplifting moment, the inevitable reality pressed harder at Emily's chest. She glanced at the small clock ticking in the corner of the room, a reminder of how time never stood still, and neither did her worries. Jacob, she began, as a pause settled between them. What if my story isn't enough? What if I don't get the help we need? What if... No, you are enough, he declared, his small voice unwavering. It was a powerful declaration delivered with innocence. You just have to be you, and that's the best you can be. Emily felt a rush of warmth from his words, like a comforting quilt on a cold night. Thanks, kiddo. It means the world hearing you say that. She knew they weren't just stories. They were their truths, laced with love and hope, and she needed to believe in them as fiercely as Jacob did. But how do they see that? She whispered, the shadows creeping back into her mind. What if they only see the eviction notice? What if they think we're just another sad case? Jacob shook his head vigorously. They would be silly to think that. Sad cases don't save lives or get cats out of trees. Emily chuckled, ruffling his hair again. You're right. Maybe I need to remember that it's not about what they think of us. It's about what we know inside. The conversation flickered like a candle in a drafty room, illuminating the potential hidden within her fears. She felt the stirring inside her, a glimmer she'd almost lost. As she gathered her materials together for the big meeting, her heart swelled. This could be it, the chance to reshape their story, to finally carve a path out of the darkness. As they prepared to hit the hay, a thrilling idea struck her. What if we made a poster for the meeting? Something colorful and bright? Jacob's face lit up. Yes, we can put sparkles on it. And maybe even drawings of us. Yes, exactly. A visual story of hope. Emily exclaimed, her excitement bubbling over. They spent the next hour drawing and designing on large sheets of paper. With each stroke of the marker, they painted not just their struggles, but dreams they dreamed of: a secure home, laughter-filled evenings, and adventures yet to come. Yet, just as they finished their last masterpiece, the door swung open. Emily! Jacob! I'm back. It was their mom, her face weary yet full of love. The heaviness of the day's labor didn't escape her eyes, but she still offered her brightest smile upon seeing them. Mom! Look what we made! Jacob exclaimed, displaying the bright poster with infectious joy. Emily watched as her mother stepped closer, curiosity transforming into a frown. What's this for? She asked, her forehead creasing just enough to reveal concern. Emily's stomach twisted. Would she understand the magnitude of what tomorrow held? Would she encourage or doubt? Mom, it's for the meeting. Emily hesitated, feeling the vulnerability wash over her. Would her mother see it as a glimmer of hope or more burdens on their already compressed life? But before she could find the right words, a pang of panic rippled through her. Would tomorrow's meeting change everything, or would it just lead to yet another disappointment? Can we really do this? She wondered, her heart pounding as the pressure of the upcoming meeting weighed heavily on her mind. Emily took a deep breath. Did she have the strength to embrace hope when it felt so fragile? That question hung in the air, thick with uncertainty, leaving her to wonder if tomorrow would be the beginning of a new chapter or the end of the one they'd been desperately trying to write. The next morning, a wavering sunlight crept through the window, casting golden stripes across the floor. Emily stirred awake, her mind instantly racing to the meeting. She glanced over at Jacob, still asleep, his face peaceful, unaware of the anxiety that tangled in the air around them. She felt both a surge of affection for him and a wave of nerves crashing over her. Today is the day, she whispered to herself, attempting to shake off the uncertainty. She gently nudged Jacob awake. Come on, buddy. Big day ahead. Jacob blinked up at her, his hair tousled and eyes squinting against the bright light. Is it meeting day? He asked, his voice thick with sleep. Yep, Emily replied, trying to infuse her tone with excitement despite her own racing heart. Let us make it memorable. They rushed through breakfast, a shared bowl of cereal bringing a sense of normalcy. Each crunch echoed in the quiet kitchen, yet Emily's mind raced with thoughts of what lay ahead. Would they really discuss their struggles? Would they be heard? She tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear, trying to focus. After breakfast, they donned their jackets, Jacob bouncing on his toes, and headed out into the brisk morning air. The chill nipped at their skin, but Emily couldn't help but feel a warmth spread within her, both from the briskness and the anticipation of what might come next. As they approached the community center, Emily's stomach twisted again. The building loomed large, a structure that had so many memories for her. She knew what it looked like from the outside, but she often questioned how it felt inside. Would it embrace them or echo their fears? They found the meeting room filled with folding chairs, scattered papers, and a buzz of familiar faces. "Look, Mom's here," Jacob said, pointing, his voice bubbling with excitement. Their mother stood by the entrance, talking to a friendly neighbor, clearly having put on a brave face despite the weariness tugging at her eyes. "Come on, let us go say hi," Emily urged, gripping Jacob's hand as they shuffled across the room. As they reached their mother, Emily felt a surge of gratitude. "Mom, I'm glad you made it," she said, squeezing her mother's arm affectionately. "Of course, wouldn't he miss it for the world," she replied, her voice steady, but Emily could see traces of worry lingering behind her smile. Once the meeting commenced, Emily and Jacob stood at the front, poster in hand, surrounded by eager eyes. They unveiled their masterpiece, a mix of colors and sparkles that splashed joy across the room. Emily felt her heart race as she began to share their story tales of their struggles, the cat rescue, and the hope that had driven them to this moment. As she spoke, she glanced at Jacob, who was nodding enthusiastically. Her voice trembled but steadied as she put everything into her words: her fears, their resilience, and their dreams. She saw faces in the crowd shift. Some were watching closely, others seemed moved. The room was a melting pot of emotions, and she could feel the collective pulse of hope throbbing around them. But just as she began to sense acceptance blossoming, an elderly gentleman raised his hand. "You have a lot of courage," he started, but his voice was tinged with doubt. "But can you really change your circumstances? What makes you so special?" The room fell silent, the air thickening with the weight of his doubt. Emily felt her chest constrict, a familiar anxiety creeping back. At that moment, she could feel all the eyes on her, waiting, yearning for strength in the face of skepticism. "Can we really do this?" she echoed silently within herself, scrambling to find answers. She took a deep breath, the warmth of her mother's hand squeezing so tightly, guiding her back to the moment. Jacob looked up at her, eyes wide with hope, and suddenly it hit her. This was their journey together. They were not just a story of survival. They were a story of transformation. "Even if we're not perfect," she began, her voice firm, "we're ready to try." The crowd shifted again, the invisible weight of judgment lightening ever so slightly. Just as she contemplated the next words to say, an unexpected figure stepped through the door. A woman in a crisp blazer and a confident demeanor surveyed the crowd with a curious gaze. Emily could feel a shift, the room ignited with murmurs. Who was she, and what did her arrival signify? "Who is that?" Emily thought, as curiosity whispered questions inside her mind. The meeting had just taken a turn, and an unfamiliar possibility loomed like warmth on a cold winter day. What was about to happen next? The room hummed with whispers, eyes darting between Emily, Jacob, and the new arrival. The woman stepped inside, a cool confidence radiating from her. Her blazer complemented the authority she seemed to command. Who was she, and what brought her here today? "What do you think she wants?" Jacob whispered, his hand still clutching Emily's tight. She could feel the uncertainty in his grip, mirroring her own. "I don't know, but let us find out," Emily replied, forcing a smile to reassure him. The woman scanned the room, her gaze finally landing on Emily and her poster. She approached, an air of purpose in her stride. "Excuse me," she began, her voice clear and steady. "I'm Rachel Sands, and I couldn't help but be drawn to your presentation." Emily swallowed hard, hoping for understanding in those piercing eyes. "Thank you," she stammered. "We're sharing our story about resilience and hope." "Resilience is powerful," Rachel responded, glancing at Jacob with a softening expression. "And your passion is palpable." Emily was taken aback. Encouragement poured out in a way she hadn't expected. "We just wanted to show everyone that change is possible," she said, emboldened by Rachel's presence. Rachel nodded thoughtfully. "You clearly have a story worth telling, and I have some experience in helping stories like yours reach a wider audience." "What do you mean?" Emily asked, her heart racing. Could this be what they really needed? I work with a nonprofit dedicated to uplifting young voices like yours, Rachel explained. And I have connections to some substantial resources. We could work together to help your cause if you'd like. Jacob's eyes lit up, and Emily felt a spark of hope ignite within her. Wait, she breathed, her thoughts spiraling. Are you saying you'd help us? Absolutely, Rachel replied with a warm smile. But it's up to you to share your voice. Are you willing to take that step? The room felt electric, shockwaves of excitement coursing through it. Emily's mind raced with thoughts. This was the opportunity they had dreamed about, the chance to not only change their situation but to inspire others. As the initial shock settled, a flicker of hesitation crept into her heart. But what if we fail? She blurted out. Everyone has fears, Rachel said gently, but the power lies in overcoming them. That's what makes your journey real and relatable. You'll have support every step of the way. Emily glanced at Jacob, whose wide smile mirrored hers. The doubt that had once filled her heart began to dissipate, replaced by a swell of excitement mixed with a touch of fear. This was a moment she had wished for, yet it came with the weight of responsibility. What if we're not enough for this? She whispered, but Rachel quickly interjected. But what if you are? The room held its breath, uncertainty thick in the air once again. As Emily looked around, she saw faces filled with hope, many captivated by Rachel's words. Suddenly, this was more than just their journey. It could be a movement. Are you ready for the challenge? Rachel asked, staring directly into Emily's eyes. A moment passed, the kind that felt like eternity. Emily recognized the crossroads they stood at. She could either dismiss this chance, stay safe, or take a leap into the unknown. They say fortune favors the brave, she whispered, glancing at Jacob, whose optimism radiated warmth. Then let us do it. The crowd erupted into applause, and Emily felt the energy shift. Relief flooded her chest. But there was an urgency, now the work truly began. But in the middle of the overwhelming emotions swirled a nagging thought. What unexpected sacrifices lay ahead? Just then, a hushed voice interrupted the moment. Hold on a second, another participant said nervously, standing up. Are we really ready for this? What if we can't handle it? Faces turned to that man, questions brewing anew. Doubt lingered like a dark cloud, ready to rain on their budding hope. As Emily took a deep breath, she knew this was only the beginning. Would they have what it takes when challenges arose? The next chapter of their story was waiting, eager to unfold. As the applause faded, the flood of emotions surged forward. Emily could feel the warmth of the crowd's support deepening her resolve. Yet the man's question hung in the air, a tangible weight that mirrored the uncertainty inside her. What if we can't handle it? That question replayed in Emily's head, drowning out the cheers. She scanned the room, seeing the hopeful faces in front of her, some of whom she recognized from their community center. Each person held a piece of their shared dream, but the shadows of doubt loomed over them like a threat. Taking a step forward, Rachel looked around the room. Fear is normal, she spoke gently. It's part of any journey toward change. But this is not just your struggle, it's ours. Together, we're stronger. Jacob squeezed Emily's hand tighter, grounding her swirling thoughts. She's right, he said, his voice steady. We're all in this together, and that's what makes it possible. Nodding, Emily's gaze shifted back to Jacob. It was that look in his eyes, a quiet assurance, that sparked a flicker of confidence in her. What do we even start with? She asked, feigning professionalism but feeling the weight of responsibility. Rachel smiled, as if expecting the question. The first step is to gain resources to support your cause. I can help you set up meetings with other organizations interested in partnership. A ripple of enthusiasm coursed through the crowd at the mention of potential collaboration. But we're not experts, someone shouted from the back of the room. Can we actually make a difference? Rachel held up a hand. Let me remind you, it's not about being perfect. It's about being passionate and committed. You'll learn as you go, and I'll be right here to help guide you. Encouraged, Emily felt a wave of determination wash over her. Instead of dwelling on their fears, she thought of the message they wanted to convey. It's about showing others that their voices matter, too. she said aloud. The whispers of agreement spread through the crowd. For once, doubt seemed to give way to shared enthusiasm. Emily's heart raced. What had started as a timid hope was evolving into something greater, a rallying call for change. Rachel began writing down names of interested participants, urging them to join the effort. Emily's gaze met Jacob's once more, and suddenly, possibilities sprouted like wildflowers in her mind. They could reach others, inspire them, and together, they could ignite a movement. As names filled the list, a deep sense of community blossomed in the room. Emily started to envision workshops, gatherings, and even social media campaigns. We can create a platform for our voices to be amplified, she exclaimed, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Everyone grew quieter, absorbing her words. Yes, Jacob's voice broke through. Let us do this together. But as excitement swelled, a shadow of doubt crept back into Emily's heart. Would they truly be able to handle the responsibility of leading this movement? What if they stumbled along the way when everything began to take shape? Hey, let me ask you something. Rachel's voice broke through her thoughts. Can you share your journey? The ups and downs? The truth of it all? Nothing resonates more than authenticity. In that moment, Emily realized that they didn't need to be flawless. By simply being themselves, they could connect deeply with others. Her heart lightened at the thought. Okay, she said, determination flooding her voice. Let us begin. Their collective hope surged, filling the room. But just as plans began to take shape, a figure slipped into view from the entrance, a man, sharply dressed, with an enigmatic presence. He paused at the door, scanning the room. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted once more, charged with curiosity and apprehension. Emily's breath caught. Who was this newcomer and what did he want? Did he bear news that would change their plans, or would he throw another curveball at their budding aspirations? The glint in his eyes hinted at something profound, something that could tip the scales of their dream. As the man stepped inside, Emily sensed her heart race. What would this unexpected turn unveil for them next? The room fell into a hushed silence as the man strode forward, his polished shoes clicking against the wooden floor like a ticking clock, each step intensifying the collective anticipation. He wore a tailored suit, sharp enough to demand attention, but it was the expression on his face, a mix of curiosity and warmth, that caught Emily's eye. Good evening, he said, his voice smooth, yet somehow inviting. I couldn't help but overhear your conversation about change and community. He paused, allowing the weight of his gaze to settle on Emily. I'd like to help. Confusion rippled through the crowd. Was he serious? Help? Just how could someone like him be connected to their humble gathering? Who are you? Someone called out, bravely cutting through the nervous tension. A smile crept onto his lips. My name is Daniel. I'm a local entrepreneur, and I've been seeking ways to give back to the community I love dearly. He gestured around the room, as if inviting them to see the potential in their shared space. When I heard your words about the power of voices and change, you spoke straight from the heart. It resonated with me. Emily felt a spark of hope igniting within her. Could he really be the key to all their dreams? Rachel stepped forward, crossing her arms. What exactly do you mean by help? There was a firm yet inquisitive tone in her voice, as if she weren't ready to let hope lead them blindly. Daniel took a deep breath. I have resources and connections that can amplify what you're trying to create. I want to fund initiatives, provide mentorship, and partner with you to help turn your ideas into reality. The crowd shifted, caught off guard by the proposition. Whispers began to bubble at the edges, excitement and skepticism twining together like a vine. Why? Emily finally asked, her voice shaky but filled with determination. What's in it for you? Daniel met her gaze, sincerity enveloping his words. Because I believe in the power of communities. I grew up in a place much like this where I didn't feel heard. I want to ensure that no one experiences that loneliness. It marked me in ways I'm still working to overcome. As his words sank in, Emily's heart began to pound. Struggling to keep her emotions in check, she thought of all the people in this room, every individual brimming with dreams that had yet to take root. She had built this moment around doubt, But now, possibility danced in front of her. What would we have to do? Jacob asked, voice steady but laced with excitement. Daniel smiled wider, lighting up the room. First, we start with your ideas. I want to help you develop a plan that speaks to your community's needs. Then, we can explore funding opportunities and workshops that will give everyone involved practical skills and guidance. As he spoke, Emily caught the glint of hope mirrored in the eager faces around her. The seeds of their dreams began to blossom on the fringes of reality. But as she felt the wonder growing, a tension pulled at her chest. What if it's just another empty promise? She muttered unsurely. That's a valid concern, Daniel replied, his voice soft but direct. But that's why it's crucial that you lead this effort. You keep me accountable. You share your journey, your vision, and I'll simply serve as your support to reach it. A moment of stillness enveloped them. Could he be the partner they needed? Echoes of determination began rattling through the group, igniting whispers of excitement. They were teetering on the edge of something bigger than themselves. Yet just as the energy surged, Emily felt that familiar shadow of doubt clawing its way back. Why did this feel too good to be true? What if this was just another chance for disappointment? Why now? She finally pressed, her heart racing at the thought of being vulnerable again. Because it's time for your voices to be heard, Daniel stated passionately, a fire igniting in his eyes. And because I believe in you. As her pulse quickened with excitement and apprehension, Emily's gaze swept over the group. They were all staring attentively at Daniel, waiting for answers, searching for hope. Yet in the back of her mind lingered an undeniable question: could this really be their moment? Or was it just a fleeting dream? As they stood on the precipice of a decision, a new thought formed like a whisper: would they choose to leap into the depths of possibility together, or allow fear to keep them grounded? Emily took a deep breath, allowing the weight of Daniel's words to settle in her heart. This was becoming tangible, and her mind swirled with a mix of excitement and hesitation. Her eyes darted around the room, absorbing the hopeful faces of friends, neighbors, and family. They were all waiting for her to take the lead, to guide them into this new chapter of their lives. Okay, she started, her voice trembling yet steady. If we're going to do this, we'll do it together. I don't want to be the only voice here. Encouragement flowed through the room, electric and palpable. This isn't just about me and Jacob, it's about all of us. We've done well with what we have. Imagine what we could do as a community. A ripple of agreement surged, nodding heads, and murmurs of approval enthused the air. She felt Jacob squeeze her hand tighter, mirroring the excitement fluttering in her chest. Daniel smiled, a glimmer of pride dancing in his eyes. That's the spirit. We need stories like yours to ignite flame in others, to show them they're not alone. Encouraged by his faith in them, Emily began outlining their vision. I want to build workshops and support networks for others facing hardships. We can start with food drives, job training sessions, and mental health support. Community must have roots that hold each of us up, no matter how stormy it gets. Each word she spoke seemed to fan the flames of hope among the gathering. Their needs, their struggles became reality. They weren't just listening, they were engaging, anticipating. Rachel stepped in, enthusiasm radiating from her. Let us make a real plan, something that Daniel can help support. We can brainstorm ideas right here. Who wants to share? One by one, voices rose, blending into a beautiful harmony of hope and determination. Ideas flowed like a river: an initiative for tutoring programs for students, partnerships with local businesses for job placements, an arts program to express their shared experiences. Emily felt empowered, each idea receiving nods of excitement, glowing with potential. But as the ideas bounced around the room, deep within her, the stark thought returned. What if they weren't ready? What if their dreams crumbled under the weight of reality? Emily caught her breath, centered herself. It was time to push through that doubt. The scary, planning something so big, she admitted softly. But we've faced challenges before. We need to hold each other accountable, learn from missteps, and know that failure doesn't define us. It's the attempts to rise that build real character and community. A quiet murmur of agreement rippled through the room as emotions swayed like a pendulum. Fear mingled with hope, uncertainty draped in resilience. Suddenly, an older woman stood up, her voice shaking yet fierce. "I lost my job last year, and I thought I could never get back on my feet. But you know what? Seeing you all gives me courage. I want to help. Let us empower each other." The room erupted in applause, a collective celebration of solidarity, lifting them higher. It was beautiful, the realization that they weren't alone. Emily turned to Daniel, hope flooding her being. "Can you help connect us with resources for these ideas?" "Absolutely," he replied, sincerity gleaming in his voice. "We'll create a foundation for what you've started. I'll help coordinate efforts with other local businesses and community leaders. This is just the beginning." As laughter and encouragement filled the room, for the first time, Emily felt the near-crippling weight of doubt loosen. This was happening. They were doing it together. Speeding through the planning, ideas became mapped-out strategies, their vision morphing into an actionable reality. Before long, people jumped in to volunteer their time, skills, and resources, while others debated the first community event. Emily couldn't believe the transformation she witnessed, fears fading into actionable plans while enthusiasm bloomed. Finally, as the meeting began to wrap up, Emily could hardly contain her joy. "It's incredible how far we've come in. Just this one evening. Thank you all for believing, for stepping up. Know this, we are no longer just individuals. We are a community." Cheers erupted, hearts rising in collective hope as they cheered for their shared journey and the power they unearthed together. And in that moment, something clicked for Emily. They were bound not by their struggles but by the passion and resilience to rise above them. As families began to disperse, Emily held her brother tight, knowing this was just the beginning of a powerful wave of change. They walked home hand in hand, hearts woven together with hope and purpose. "You did it, Emily," Jacob chimed, beaming with pride. "I couldn't have done it without you and everyone else," she replied, feeling lighter than she had in months. And even as they approached their home, the ever-looming eviction notice tucked away in her bag as a stark reminder of their struggle. For once, it didn't overwhelm her. Instead, it stood as a monument to how far they had come and what they refused to let define them and their hearts. They knew they would face challenges ahead, but united, they felt invincible. Change was no longer just a distant dream, it was emerging, alive with endless possibilities. "Together, we'll make it happen," Emily whispered, smiling down at Jacob. As they entered their home, it felt less like a struggle and more like a sanctuary filled with hope. And for the first time in a long while, she could finally see the light, radiant in the future that awaited them. Remember, you need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your feelings about this inspiring transformation. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey of hope. Your support means everything to us.